Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Mid-South Wrestling Review for the 17th of March, 1984, St. Patrick's Day of 84. Mid-South is on a roll, certainly. Mr. Wrestling 2 has his new championship, the North American Championship. Basically, he jumps out the JYD. He says that he's been passed over for far too long. He's sick of being taken for granted. He's going to do whatever it takes to make him at the top of his game, and that's where his focus is. Jerry Gray and Pat Rose are the adversaries for the Midnight Express. The Midnight Express are, in fact, the Rock and Roll Express. I'm thinking Midnight Express because they have a major angle in the program. But the Rock and Roll Express are here, and they are wearing kind of pink, purplish, you should say fuchsia tights, side headlock by Gibson. Gibson gets sent into the corner, sunset flip by Gibson, and he goes right to town pretty quickly. Near fall for Gibson. Tag off to Gray. Gray gets sent over and in, and we kind of get an Irish whip there. Shots in the midsection, and ultimately that goes around pretty well. Irish whip there, and shoulder tackle, and a second slide through. Manages to try the roll up, but doesn't get it. Dropkick under the chin by Ricky Morton. Morton so fast, so quick, and the young ladies love him to death for sure. He makes a hot tag, and double dropkick by the Rock and Roll Express gives them the victory. Then we see the Midnight Express celebrating their victory. They have party hats and streamers and cake and Jim Cornette telling them they can have everything worth celebrating. They actually have garbage bags full of balloons and sequined stuff for the champions, as they are your new Mid-South Tag Team champions. Jim Cornette gives them permission to have cake, which is against their diet. He basically makes fun of, and let me get that. We will be back in two shakes of a lamb's tail, and we are good to go. This is, in fact, the case where Cornette gets tied up in the cake and is completely dunked in the cake, for lack of a better term. This is an angle that he himself would repeat as Booker of Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and has been repeated throughout wrestling for quite a while. Obviously, the idea that they are champions has him elated and sky high, but that doesn't serve him well as it relates to getting dunked in the cake, and certainly, without a doubt, he is not doing everything he needs to do to protect himself from not only, protect himself and his team, actually, from the assaults of the hands of Bill Watts and the Rock and Roll Express and former team, basically anybody who would be onto their game, right? And so Cornette gets dunked, literally, in the cake, and it doesn't go well for him. Iconic angle, worth going out of your way to see because, well, it's Jim Cornette getting dunked in a cake, and plus, it's an angle that he repeats and is repeated throughout wrestling history. I don't know that it's the first time it's ever been done. I don't think so. But the nature of Cornette overselling it and just the comedy of it and the fact that it's done at a time when it's not ridiculously, overdone by that point. Remember, the 80s, late 70s to mid-80s is when a lot of the things that most of us regard as the good old days began to happen. And a big part of that is that guys and gals were encouraged to try new things, do new things, and really, when they did everything they needed to do, you would have situations where, in fact, it would pay off for everybody, and that is what this is, and that is where this goes, and it's good, and it's I guess I'd say somewhat wholesome, and at the same time, it's trouble for Jim Cornette. Jim Cornette is a guy who, as much as I love him and I listen to his podcast, he repeats angles, and I think a lot of the people that are critical of him uh, say that he returns to the angles that worked 35, 40 years ago way too much. And there's some truth to that, although those angles work far more and better than most of what's put out today. So it's kind of a moot point indirectly in that way. Anyway, Cornette getting dunked in the cake is a classic thing that if you've never seen it before or you're too young to have seen it the first time around, worth going out of your way to see. We move on to the journey into Nikolai Volkov and Terry Taylor, I believe, is the next match in our foray here. And it's interesting because Taylor, again, continues to be probably one of, if not the most successful baby faces in the area in a short span of time. Yeah, Nikolai Volkov and Terry Taylor is where we land after the whole cake incident, and obviously Taylor has been a big deal here. Volkov, former North American champion, and we also see some returns here and some really interesting stuff. Volkov is singing the Russian national anthem. Terry Taylor comes out with an American flag. I mean, you can do that in 1984. I don't think it necessarily worked, certainly in 2004, although maybe after 9/11, a couple of years after 9/11, the American flag thing still would work. I don't necessarily like when guys turn wrestling angles into nationalism. It's just not my thing, but I see where it could work upon occasion. Anyway, sunset flip by Taylor, and ultimately shoulder tackle, deep arm drag, and a nature of dropping the knee, and ultimately Irish whip kick under the chin of Taylor, and punches and kicks and headbutts by Nikolai. Nikolai goes right at his man, and a high cross body by Taylor. Taylor gets catapulted almost into the third row there, and headbutt again by Nikolai. Nikolai not backing down by any stretch of the imagination here. Taylor manages to get a hard shot and goes right at him here. A couple of shots actually by Taylor. Taylor manages again to get things going his way. Drop kicks Nikolai over the top rope. Surprised that wasn't a disqualification. The match continues. Khrushchev comes down. Boot in the corner by Nikolai, who doesn't seem to be worried about this. And then, obviously, as would be expected, the disqualification win for Taylor. Taylor gets caught in the white rope noose that Nikolai brings with him, and they send him through the ropes and over the top, and it's pretty brutal. Referee gets involved there, and a couple of things. Duggan, I believe, is the one that runs down, makes the save. Duggan, yeah, makes the save there with 2x4 in hand. He cuts a promo after this whole thing where he says he's thinking of Crusher Khrushchev with everything he does, Darso with everything he does. He wants revenge on Volkov and Khrushchev. He says he's thinking of him when he's eating his cereal, thinking of him when he's pushing weights, thinking of him no matter what he does, and he wants revenge. And so, Buddy Landel and Magnum TA up next. Again, TA basically off of being turned on by his former tag partner and coach, Wrestling 2. And Buddy Landel still trying to find himself here in 1984. Landel tries to shoot in on Magnum, doesn't quite get where he wants to be. Actually, they had a good run in Crockett Promotions as well. Good takedowns by Magnum, sit out with wrestling. And it's always interesting because the collegiate style wrestling, the high school style, is something that Bill Watts often likes to see in matches, even if it's for 30 to 60, 90 seconds. You can see that being something he cares about. Shoulder tackles and pretty intense stuff by Landell. Landell gets caught in a big old body slam, though, and that does not end well for him. Obviously, we kind of see things going that way. Side headlock by TA, and TA takes his opponent over in a pretty assertive, aggressive manner. And we kind of see Landell trying to pull him off a bit. And leapfrog, and TA manages a big body slam right in the middle. Ultimately, we kind of see a nature of a shot, and shot over the shoulder by the benefit of Landell. Landell hits several shots there, and ultimately goes for a pinning combination. Doesn't get what he wants. Landell actually coming off more as a brawler in the match, as he basically stands and punches at Magnum, peppers him with shots for quite a bit, armbar, and then roll through. Actually, Landell coming out better with the arm bars as well, almost showing as though he might be a little more of a veteran. The kickoff by Magnum. Magnum not taking a backward step, but also looking to be a bit overwhelmed in the match, but finally manages to beat down on Landell for his cheating. Big back body drop by Magnum sends his adversary up into the lights, and and eventually Magnum gets the victory with the belly-to-belly suplex. 1, 2, 3, right in the middle, and then we go Butch Reed and Masa Ito versus Stroud and Davis. I don't know that we've seen this version of Mr. Davis before. Stroud we have seen. Masa has predominantly been a heel who is, not exactly partner friendly, so to speak. And Obi Davis comes in. This is not someone we've seen before. Meanwhile, Reed catches a few shots, catches a shot over the shoulder. He's not happy with any of this. Shot under the chin, and again, some tag offs, and ultimately, Masa hits a series of karate style shots before tagging Reed back in. Reed, who is a former tag team and North American champion, is dominant. However, the baby faces do manage to catch him. Speaking of getting caught, Reed hits a lariat and a leg drop from the second rope. Reed, upon occasion, will surprise people with his athleticism, pulls his opponent up, and then body slams him right in the middle. Masa comes in and gets the nerve hold, among other things, and a double team where he hits a double chop and gets a victory off the chop. And then we move to Bill Watts confronting Jim Cornette. This is an iconic segment. Cornette up in his face. Basically, Watts continues to call him a sissy, continues to say that Cornette needs to learn respect. Watts makes fun of the son of Bill Watts, or not Watts. Cornette makes fun of the son of Watts, and Cornette obviously still has cake in his hair when he's debuting this. Meanwhile, Bill Watts confronting Jim Cornette has embarrassed him. That will lead to things in the future, but needless to say, Watts finally slaps the taste out of Jim Cornette's mouth. Not a good day to be Jim Cornette as we close this particular edition of the Mid-South Review. We'll be back with more right after this.